So we'll discuss today on this particular small book. So this is one seminar given by His Holiness Kadam Kanan Swami Maharaj. Name is The Diving Deep. From Surface to Substance, the three layers of spiritual institutions. So this is a very nice understanding which Maharaj has given. So when we read general Vedic text, so they talk about various ways, various practices which a human being can do to come closer to God. But still, till that time one reads Chaitanya Charitamrita, he actually does not understand the exclusive process given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in terms of the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. The Vedic text, they talk about all processes which can help one to go closer to God. But when we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, then more focus comes on the process of chanting the holy names of the Lord. But now, even after reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's very difficult to understand how to practice bhakti when we are in an institution. Because no Vedas, no scriptural text talks about practicing bhakti in an institution. They talk about taking shelter of spiritual master. They talk about surrendering to the spiritual master. They talk about various processes which are involved. But then, how, when one is a part of an institution, how one will practice spirituality? That we don't see. And that is why, for all of us, Srila Prabhupada's Lila Amrit becomes very important, because when we read Lila Amrit, then we understand how bhakti can be practiced in an institution. And especially when we also see the life of disciples of Srila Prabhupada, how they perfected their life being in the institution of ISKCON. Many times, those who are some Babadis at Radhakund, sometimes they may portray or they may present that ISKCON is too much into, preaching, too much into management, too much into so many things. And that's why, they don't have that level of purity now. And many times those who are new, they may get affected by hearing these things. And but when we see the examples of Srila Prabhupada disciples, that how they were so actively engaged, actively preaching, and still they are perfecting their life. That is why their life becomes very important for us. So here, His Holiness Kadam Kanan Swami Maharaj, he has very beautifully spoke about these three levels. So he's talking about three levels of practices. First is level 1, where he says institution. Level 2 is the perfect process. And level 3 is the divine intervention. So Maharaj says that as per the surrender and the faith of an individual, he can have access to these deeper levels of spirituality. We say generally we see that devotees, they are described as Kanistha, Madhyama, and Uttama. So generally those who are Kanistha Adhikaris, they will have access only to this level of understanding. That is institutional level of understanding. So he says, what is this institution? What is this first level? This is the part of ISKCON which is in touch with the external energy or connected to material energy. So here we find facilities, temples, authority structure, history, the glories and the scandals, acts and the figures, how many devotees made, how many books distributed, and like this. So this is the external part of the preaching movement, where lots of work and action takes place to spread Krishna consciousness. The preaching movement is dynamic and bold, and not averse to using material facilities and opulence in the service of Krishna. as Srila Rupa Goswami explains, that renouncing those things which can be used for Krishna service, that renunciation is dry and incomplete. But Yukta Vairagya is a complete aspect of renunciation where one engages everything for the service of the Lord without attachment for the pleasure of the Lord. So this is the institutional level where we see all these external parameters that oh प्रभु जी उनका टेम्पल कितना बड़ा है प्रभु जी उनका देखिए कितना बड़ा है these are the external aspect of organization प्रभु जी उधर देखिए कितना अच्छा उन्होंने फैसिलिटीज क्रिएट किया है right प्रभु जी that temple distributed the most books this time right और प्रभु जी उस टेम्पल में देखिए कितने अच्छे मोटिवेशनल स्पीकर्स रहते हैं right this is the external part of the organization but it will have both because it is in touch with the material energy so any contact with material energy we can expect some difficulties devi sugunamai mama maya durtaya so that's why we also see and especially in kali yuga things are very complicated and we are using these material things in krishna's service but many times we may get affected also by it like during Prabhupada time, they had started one company, uh, that incense making company, Skyliner, spiritual Skyliner, something like that. So you see the video, such big trucks are coming out. It took a huge shape. It became a very big company. But then later on, the fights started happening among the devotees because of money, because of some other aspects. And then finally it had to be closed down. And later on, another proposal had come to start business. And Prabhupada said, no, we will not get into all this. We'll just distribute books, and that is enough to have money to maintain our temple. Why? Because there is a tendency we may start with a noble cause to help and support or to spread Krishna consciousness. But the aspect of material energy may affect us. And then we may go in a wrong direction like this. So we also see in ISKCON we have many achievements. At the same time, we have some stories of human failures and mistakes. So this is how we see that at institutional level, we'll get to see both. But because it is in touch with material energy, then we will also see that how there may be some failures. So those who are Kanishta Adhikari, about them it is mentioned that they are the one whose faith is not very strong, who is just beginning, and they are considered as Kanishta Adhikari, and they have access to the external form of Sankirtan movement. So they have access only to this institutional aspect of Sankirtan movement. So you'll find those who are new people, if you ask them, what do you like the most? Prasadam. So they liked prasadam not in terms that it was offered to Krishna and taken by Krishna, but in terms of taste. Yeah. Why? Because they can access only to the external form of Sankirtan movement. और you ask, और आपको क्या अच्छा लगा? अरे प्रभु जी क्या बोलते हैं? Correct? So he did not like the philosophy what he spoke, but the presentation what was spoken. Like when George Harrison became a devotee and he wrote a forward to Krishna book and he sang an album. Many people became devotee. He is doing, we will also do. So they got attracted to external aspect that okay, he's doing so, it must be something special like this. So this institution is like the external aspect of the Sankirtan movement. Like Prabhupada gives example that in Kali Yuga, to spread institution is very important. Previously, we see that there was no concept of institution like this, especially in a spiritual life. And there were spiritual master, they were disciples, and then that's how they would live their life. But if one has to spread at a very mass level, and especially the way Kali Yuga is made, before all these governments they came, there were a system where kings were ruling the country. And even though you may do a business, but eventually It was the responsibility of the king to export your goods to some other place. No person could make his own company, no person could make his own business. Ultimately, there was only one company, that was king. And all others, being a praja citizen, you do what you want to do and give everything to king, and he will give to you something. But when Kaliuga started, then we saw that how these institutions they came into picture. And when Bhakti Siddhanta Sati Thakur, he was there, so he understood the need of having an institution. And he could understand that institution is like a gun, and whatever substance is, that is like a bullet. So if one takes the help of institution, then the impact is more and it is very deep. So Bhaktivedanta Thakur took help, and then he had this institution being registered as Gaudiya Mission. At the same time, when he was himself heading this institution, he was the Acharya, but then he wanted a collective governing body to take as his successor after him. But somehow this concept could not enter into the disciples of Bhaktivedanta Thakur, that how can institution run without having an Acharya? And he wanted to establish that after me, no Acharya. After me, governing body should collectively take care of this. But then still they disregarded this instruction. And Bhaktivedanta Thakur had around 27 sannyasi disciples. Out of them, only one fell down, who was made as an acharya in the first place. And other 26, they did not fell. But then still the whole institution collapsed. Why? Because people started fighting over facilities, resources. And that is a disadvantage which one may have at level of institution, and especially people also may have Kanishta tendency that they get more affected by the external aspect of the institution. So, but when Prabhupada started, he very much emphasized that no, it should run by a governing body. And you see, in case of ISKCON, after Prabhupada, so many difficulties came, many devotees they left. But then still we see ISKCON kept growing. Why? Because of this system which was followed as Srila Prabhupada wanted, that it should have a governing body which should collectively take decision and take care of ISKCON. So we see that those who are Kanishtas, they get more affected by the external aspect of the institution. And sometimes the purpose of the institution is to properly administer the medicine, to properly spread the medicine. And sometimes that aspect only may be forgotten, or one may get distracted by being more attracted and becoming more concerned about the external aspect of the institution. So suppose somebody just firing the gun without putting bullet, and he is more concerned about the gun only, and he is not taking care of the bullet. So then that institution will not have much effect. And because it is an institution, it is in touch, directly touch with material energy. So it is a risk, because it is in directly touch with material energy. So a person can very easily get affected by the external aspect of the institution. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned, Kanishta Adhikari faithfully engages in the worship of the deity in the temple, but does not behave properly towards other devotees or people in general. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Jaiv Dharma, he says, already it has been established that Shraddha, faith, is the seed of devotion. To worship the deity of the Lord with Shraddha is certainly bhakti. But without worshipping and serving the devotee of the Lord, one cannot execute Suddha Bhakti. So this is how the Kanishta Adhikaris are. Sometimes they are also known as Prakarta Bhakta, a devotee concerned with the material energy. He primarily relates to the external form of Sankirtan movement. He sometimes dips into the second level of perfect process, but can't go very deep. He has difficulty living by the scripture and relies on his own intelligence in trying to find happiness. So this is considered as a surface of the ocean, and that surface is the institutional aspect of the ocean. So those who are Kanishta Adhikari, they hover on this surface only. Sometimes they may try to go and dip into the ocean. That is means trying to do the process, but they cannot have much taste from the process, and their taste lies more on the surface. ओ प्रभु जी बहुत बड़ा प्रोग्राम हुआ, 10,000 लोग आए दिल्ली ने किया। अभी देखिए अडानी के साथ प्रभु जी इस्कॉन ने क्या एकदम धमाल मचा दिया। देयर टेस्ट लाइज ऑन द surface, like this. Another beautiful thing it is mentioned that Kanistha or Prakarta Bhakta is occupied with Prakriti, material energy. Therefore, such a devotee cannot enter very deep into the spiritual process. He does not have much taste for it. Therefore, his attention will be drawn back to the organizational level, where all the latest up and downs are the juice of the day. Uh, so, like if two businessmen they meet, they talk about business, right? If the two ladies that meet, they talk about everything, right? When two voice devotees they meet, they talk about huh? They'll talk about voice में क्या चल रहा है, वहाँ क्या चल रहा है, वह कैसे चल रहा है, right? That is the taste and juice of प्राकृत भक्ता, right? और दो ब्रह्मचारी मिलते हैं तो क्या बात करते हैं, इस्कॉन में, उस इस्कॉन मंदिर में क्या हो रहा है, उस इस्कॉन मंदिर में क्या हो रहा है, इस इस्कॉन मंदिर में क्या हो रहा है। और अधिकांश क्या टॉक होती हैं जो नेगेटिव एस्पेक्ट हैं इंस्टीट्यूशन के, वो ड्यूटी को पता है क्या हुआ उसके साथ, नहीं अरे पता नहीं आपको क्या हुआ, वो ड्यूटी के साथ ऐसा हुआ ऐसा हुआ, गोविंदा चलाया, पैसा चलाया, फिर गायब हो गया। और वो उससे जूस आता है। इसलिए आप देखोगे इस कॉन में कुछ भी थोड़ा सा नेगेटिव होता है, वाइल्ड फायर की तरह स्प्रेड होता है। सब व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में धार धार धार, तो सब कनिष्ठा लेके बैठे हुए अपना मोबाइल एकदम उनको जूस को स्प्रेड करते, करेक्ट। और ये है भी बिकॉज यू विल सी वी गेट मोर जूस इन ऑल दिस, इज इट नॉट? क्या हुआ प्रभु जी, कैसे हुआ प्रभु जी, लाइक दैट। So that is how Kanishta Adhikari is. He has more access to the external aspect of this movement. And it is important because institution is very important for us also and for the spreading also. At the same time, there are negativities which come along with the institution because it is Bahiranga Sakti, it is indirectly touched with Bahiranga Sakti. So sometimes in institution this also happens, people with ulterior motives may come. And we do see that in ISKCON also, we see people coming with some ulterior motives. Of course, now to great extent, devotees have worked it out, but still, we see that how previously people would come to marry a foreign girl, or some people would come that I can make a career in ISKCON, or so and so, like that. So we see that because of these negativities, a person may not be able to actually take benefit of this whole institution, or there will be quarrel and fights because of post position, like that. I remember we had NIDC in Kanpur. So we had bureau, NIDC, AIDC, SIDC, WIDC, and I was overall coordinator for all. And that time we were not having many devotees, only LGBT voice was in existence. So young devotees were there, and I was knowing among all DCs, NIDC will be little more challenging because Bihari, UP, and these states leaders, North India Division Council, because they have this touch of UP, Bihar, and like that. So we had that time about this Vaibhav Guru was in second year. So I told Vaibhav Guru, Prabhu, you are mature, you stay here to take care of the setup in NIDC. And other places I had kept some other devotees. Now two devotees, they started having verbal fight, and Vaibhav Guru could not understand how devotees can speak like this. And when I came, he came out, "Oh जी ये क्या हो रहा है, कैसे हो रहा है?" और वो उनका फिर पूरा सेटर हो गया। बोला आप पहले बाहर आओ, रूम में जाओ, रेस्ट करो, शाम को बात करेंगे। Sometime a person may get very affected by the external aspect. Yes, in one time what happened, one disciple, he couriered his bead bag to spiritual master. uh, that Guruji, ये bead bag आपने दिया था, आप ले लीजिए, I don't want you. ऐसा कर गया. I mean, generally, spiritual master rejects a disciple. Here, Kaliga is so complex because of, and what was the main reason? आपने मुझे support नहीं किया management. Because what happens now, when the external aspect is, then people they see, oh, उसको support किया, मुझे support नहीं किया, उसको वो resource दिया, मुझे resource नहीं दिया. People get more affected by the external aspect, but it is just a form. But in a material consciousness, that only is seen as all in all. That only comes on the surface as all in all. And this is the nature of the institution. Like, suppose you distributed 20,000 books this marathon, you will get a special award from His Holiness Japataka Swami Maharaj. Photo will come, BTG article will come, and your interview will come. Temples also will call you, Prabhu, please give us seminar on how effectively we can distribute books. So then everyone sees, oh, success means this, is it not? And then those who get, they become proud, and those who don't get, they become depressed. क्या है, हमको मौका नहीं दिया, मैं भी कर सकता था, लेकिन उसको अच्छा इको कार दे दिया बुक डिसीजन के लिए, और मुझे जो है वो टीवीएस का फटफटिया दे दिया. Then naturally people compare ना, because they see कि अच्छा ऐसे सक्सेस मिलता है, ऐसे वो होता है. But unfortunately, we forget to see that actually that is not a spiritual success. Service is done, that is very good. Now, depending upon the consciousness of a person, how he has done, Krishna is becoming pleased. And obviously, Krishna may empower him. He may be doing all this because of getting empowerment from Krishna. But only the external display is not all in all. We can't say that because of external display, he's a great soul. No, he can be, but that is not everything what will define him. But unfortunately, in a Kanistha level, sometimes what happens, our chanting may be very unattentive, but our mind will say, मैं भी कैसे करूँगा, मैं भी 20,000 किताब कैसे करूँगा, 20,000 किताब, और चैंटिंग में ही सोच रहे हो. मेरे को भी अवार्ड मिलेगा जब तक महाराज जी से, यही एक तरीका है महाराज जी की कृपा लेने का. ऐसे थॉट्स आते हैं ना, इम्प्रेस किया है, गला लगाया है प्रभु. तो वो थॉट्स आ जाते हैं ऐसा. But actually, spiritual master relationship is very deep. It's not कि somebody को गले लगाया, थपथपाया तो ही गुरु प्रसन्न है. Sometimes you'll find during Prabhupada time also, most of the Prabhupada disciples who were very close to Prabhupada, after Prabhupada, they disappeared. Now, if they only got all mercy, if Prabhupada was very happy with them, then why they had so many challenges? Because internal connectivity, internal growth also matters, and that matters more. And bhakti is an internal process. But naturally, because institution is very important for us to do Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam, if we don't have a form of institution, will we have a resource to engage our Rishikesha Rishikena Sevanam? No. The institution is creating a platform, but because it is in touch with material energy, then there will be comparisons, there will be competitions, there will be some people getting more success, some people getting less success, some people will be able to, better use material energy. Some people will not be so nicely be using material energy. So those who are better using material energy, they will be, clapped by others. Jai ho, Prabhu, like that. And it happens like uh, Devinandan Prabhu was not knowing about me before. But when first expression happened and it surprised everyone in Kanpur. और फिर आइए किसने किया. तो unfortunately or fortunately people gave. और जब अनाउंसमेंट हुआ था सेवा का, तो मेरे को ही नाम लिखने थे, तो मुझे लगा मैं अपना नाम तो कैसे लिखूंगा, तो मैंने अपना नाम नहीं लिखा था. प्रेम नाम तो इतने सिंपल है, जो नाम लिखे थे उन्होंने वही अनाउंस किया है मॉर्निंग में. तो फिर जो है देवकी ने पूर्ण माइक लिया, बट हु वाज द मैन ऑफ द मैच, ऐसा करके प्रोसी बोले. तो फिर सब डिवोटी ने मेरा नाम जो है वो अंकित कर दिया. देन प्रोजी अंडरस्टूड कि ये मैनेजमेंट में जो है बहुत अच्छा है, लाइक दैट. So we see that externally what do you do is very explicitly seen making a difference in your life. So then naturally we get affected by that external aspect. That मैं भी कुछ करूँगा, मैं भी कुछ करूँगा. And sometimes they do teach, they say also, "अबू कुछ तो करो, कुछ करो." Sometimes devotees they say also. Like once we were asking Gaurang Prabhuji Maharaj, and you invite him for Kanpur. अरे कुछ बड़ा करो तब तो महाराज आएंगे. तो इस्कॉन में एक वैसा है भी ना, कुछ बड़ा करो तो कोई बड़ा गेस्ट आएगा. और कुछ बड़ा करो तो ही तो आपको आगे लेके जाएंगे वैसा. तो वी शुड नॉट सी दैट कि ये मटेरियल है, ऐसे भी नहीं देखना चाहिए. बट पॉइंट इज this is not all in all, and we should not get affected by this. Depending upon how Guru and Krishna wants us to be engaged in service of the Lord, we should be very happy. You see, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, he was told to worship deities. He was so happy worshipping deities. He was told to lead Kirtan. He was so happy. And he never wanted to be GBC, he never wanted to be Guru. But then Krishna empowered him. And you'll find such empowerment is very stable. Such empowerment will not hinder their spiritual growth because they never aspired for institutional success. They never got attracted to the institutional aspect like that. And same way we see His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. Whatever Prabhupada wanted, you be here, he went there. Whatever way Prabhupada wanted him to render service, he was doing. And that's why we see these devotees, and they are very special because they were not so affected by the institutional aspect. Whatever Srila Prabhupada wanted, they were knowing that this is only for service. And the goal of service is pleasing Krishna. And Krishna does not see the quantity. Krishna does not see numbers. Krishna sees that how in a spirit to please Guru and Krishna one is trying to do. Like this. Sometimes what happens, the institutional aspect affects us so much that the core aspect goes in the back. We get so affected. जो भी हो कैसे भी हो बस अभी टॉप पे आना है मेरे को. Like that. And then that may create a lot of problem. And being a kanistha, being a new devotee, naturally there is a tendency to get more affected by this, like this. So then we cannot grow in our bhakti. And because of being at this level, our talk and these things also increase more. When Bhakti Saraswati Thakur was there, so he would ask all his disciples to chant 64 rounds. And one time, some disciples they said, Guru Maharaj, if we chant 64 rounds, we'll not have any time for service. He said, no, no, no. You cut down your Prajalpa time. You will have time for service also and chanting also. Like that. Can you imagine chanting 64 rounds? Because he wanted them to go deep to the second level of perfect process, not getting affected by only the institutional aspect. So Jiva Goswami says, why transformation is not happening? Because material desires, they are entering our system. And as long as we have material desires and we do prajalpa, then this transformation will not happen. So he very beautifully defines gross prajalpa is fault finding, complaining, and talking sensually. Subtle prajalpa is internal dialogue. Internally, you are materialistic in nature and you are thinking how I can sign myself in ISKCON. I'll also become a YouTuber. I will also have many followers. Means you'll be surprised. Sometimes some devotees they open their YouTube channel, then they will upload their video, and then they will send the video. प्रभु थोड़ा सब्सक्राइब कर दो, प्रभु थोड़ा सब्सक्राइब कर दो. और किसी ने अगर नेगेटिव कमेंट दिया है तो कॉल करेंगे, प्रभु क्या प्रॉब्लम है आपको, नेगेटिव कमेंट क्यों किया आपने. So see, so much on a gross level they get affected. Okay, that is a platform you can upload, get your videos being uploaded, but then getting too affected by the views of other viewers will create lot of difficulty. So this is the internal dialogue. कहाँ से मैं भी कुछ ऐसा करूँगा, मैं भी फिर कुछ बड़ा बनूंगा ऐसा. So, say the first duty of a person in renounce order, because as you hear Prajalpa, then you develop tendency to talk Prajalpa. ग्राम में कथया ना सुनीबे ना कहीबे. Devotees asked Bhakti Sansri Thakur that we have sadhana also, service also. How to manage? He replied, you reduce your prajalpa, you will get time for both. Raghunath Goswami says very beautiful. He says prajalpa is a prostitute which gives the pleasure for short time and you have to pay a heavy price. That is your spiritual consciousness. As devotee, our wealth is taste for reading and hearing. Among all prostitute, Vaishnav Ninda is the most expensive prostitute. Most expensive means you have to pay the heavy price. Means all your taste for reading, hearing will go by doing Vaishnav Ninda. And this Haridas Prabhu, about whom we hear, so he says very beautiful. He says, जो हम लाखों की भक्ति सुबह करते हैं, चवन्नी की प्रजल्पा में दिन में गवा देते हैं. लाखों की भक्ति मीन्स मॉर्निंग वी चैंट 16 राउंड्स, डू मंगल आरती, हियर अ क्लास, और फिर आफ्टरनून टाइम में चवन्नी की प्रजल्पा करके को गवा देते हैं ऐसा. Like that. But those who are on Kanishta level, their taste will be this only: institutional success, institutional failures, institutional gossip. That is their aspect. So he's saying this is the first level where a Kanishta is. This level is important to attract devotees because institution has its role. When people hear, अरे ISKCON का प्रोग्राम है, अरे चलो चलो चलते हैं, एक ऑथेंटिसिटी है, एक बड़ा नाम है, हर जगह है. So it helps to connect people, and that is the purpose of institution, to spread at a mass level, right? At the same time, being in touch with material energy, it has negative aspects also. So as devotees, we have to know both. We cannot uh, afford to get affected by the institutional aspect, thinking that I am making a progress, although we may not be making progress. And it happens. Very great devotees in ISKCON. There was one sannyasi, and he was one of the foremost disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And he would, so much he would preach. And then devotees saw that he is facing some spiritual difficulties. So his God brothers, they told him that, we never see you sitting in Bhagavatam class. You always speak Bhagavatam classes. Then he said, actually, now I cannot hear Bhagavatam classes because I have come to such a level now that somehow I cannot hear now. And then later on, he could not continue his sannyas. Why? Because institutionally one gets affected. People they say Maharaj, or people they say great soul, and one may get affected like that. But we see those who are doing simple services, uh, they also can have much more devotion than those who are doing big services. And sometimes it may be seen, those who are doing big services, they may become attached to post position, they may fight or quarrel over something. And those who are doing simple service, they may have more love and devotion. So point is, only external aspect cannot be seen as a parameter to measure the devotion of a devotee. And we should not too much get affected by it, because material nature means there will be differences. Like some devotees, because of previous life, he might have some skill set because of which he may at institutional level more better perform. And it happens sometimes. Some devotees, they come, they are very good speakers, and the moment you give them Bhagavad Gita, then they speak Gita also very nicely, because by nature they are very good speakers. Some people are very good into management, some people are very good into relationships, and like that, some devotees, they have that business acumen. They know how to increase and bring money for Krishna. Our Prashant Prabhu, he does this CSR and cultivating big people. But time and again in brahmachari classes, we talk ill effects of all this. So he gets disturbed. So Kamalochan Prabhu came, so he went, Prabhuji, आप बताइए जो देख के सब कुछ कि मेरे को क्या करना चाहिए. तो कमलोचन पूरे उनका चार्ट देखा, अरे बहुत पैसा लिखा है तुम्हारे में. तो बोले प्रभु जी, मेरे को तो इसी पे सेवा दिया गया फंड कलेक्शन का. बोला, अरे बहुत पैसा लाओगे कृष्ण के लिए, लगे रहो. अब क्या उनका स्किल सेट भगवान ने दिया हुआ है वैसा, तो उस स्किल सेट के कारण क्या ही कैन वेरी इजिली convince people. Sometime you travel with him, he speaks certain things which you cannot speak only. Somehow he has that boldness. मैडम आप ये भी कर सकते हैं, गौशाला इस्कॉन इतना बड़ा है, हम तो करोड़ों में खेलते हैं, ये करते हैं वो करते हैं, आप भी कुछ कीजिए, आपकी कंपनी का नाम हो जाएगा। वो कह रहे बाप रे क्या क्या बोलता है। बहुत एम्पावर्ड है, लेकिन उसी को देख के हम स्पिरिचुअल सक्सेस नहीं बोल सकते उसको, बट ही यूजिंग हिज कृष्णा गिवन टैलेंट एंड थिंग्स इन सर्विस ऑफ द लॉर्ड, like that. That is good for him to be engaged in that way. But if he becomes proud and if he does not goes to the deeper level of perfect process, then he will remain on a surface only. He'll not go and become a deeper devotee. Same way, if he get too affected by this, अरे क्या प्रभु इतना successful है, मैं कुछ कर नहीं पा रहा हूँ, then we also get affected and we also will not go to the deeper level of perfect process. So we have to know institutionally there will be differences. Institutionally, you cannot make everything as one. Some people will be more successful, some people will be less successful. And at institutional level, we cannot become like everyone else. But as far as perfect process is concerned, then there are no limitations. Anyone can become a pure devotee of the Lord. Anyone can chant pure holy names of the Lord. But institutional level, depending upon how our skill set is, there will be differences. Like playing mridanga, not everyone can play mridanga of the same caliber. Even though everyone may be trained by the same teacher, some people will become such high class mridanga player that everyone will say, "Wow!" Correct. Same way singing, not everyone can become a very amazing singer. Some people will be very amazing singer, and some will not be so. Is it not? So we have to accept whatever external aspect of our personality is and whatever external aspect of institution is. We should not become अरे क्या है प्रभु को आगे बढ़ा दिया, 2 साल बाद में आया था मेरे और उसको एचओडी बना दिया और मुझे असिस्टेंट एचओडी बना दिया। Because institutionally what happens, institutionally decisions are taken, is it not? Like somebody is a more better performer, he'll be empowered. अरे प्रभु आप तो खतरनाक गाते हो, अभी आप संकीर्तन इंचार्ज बन गए। करेक्ट। So, but what happens if we identify too much with institutional things? Then what happens? We get proud and we get too much affected by it. Like suppose now new person comes. Suppose now every Mangala Arati, suppose one senior devotee is there. He's playing mridanga and he's known for playing. And everyone, any good event is, any festival is, personally the call goes to this devotee only. Prabhu, आइए मृदंगा के लिए. But suppose now new boy comes and he's playing much better mridanga than him. And now some new festival is about to come and there is Ishtagosti. And then in Ishtagosti people are asking, प्रभु बताइए कैसे इसको अच्छा कर सकते हैं। तो उसमें से कोई एक डिवोटी हाथ खड़ेगा, प्रभु ये जो प्रभु हैं क्या मृदंगा प्ले करते हैं, अब इनको दो ना चांस। और जो पुराने डिवोटी बैठे उनको कैसा लगेगा अभी, अरे क्या है ये, कहाँ से आ गया ये, ऐसा लगेगा ना। अगर वो बहुत ज्यादा मटेरियली उससे आइडेंटिफाई कर रहे हैं तो क्या होगा, ज्यादा लगेगा उनको। बट उनको भी समझना चाहिए कि ये कृष्ण की अलग अलग तरीके से जो ज़्यादा अच्छा सेवा कर सकता है उसको मौका मिलना चाहिए। लेकिन अगर हमारा पूरा शेल्टर वही हमारी मटेरियल परफॉर्मेंसेज हैं तो हमारे लिए क्या होगा, डिफिकल्टीज आएंगी, बहुत ज़्यादा डिफिकल्टीज आएंगी। बट एट द सेम टाइम दैट इज अ प्लेटफॉर्म टू बी engaged. Like that. We should try our best. Like now, the young devotee who is given an opportunity, he may say, "No, no, Prabhu is senior to me. He should play." That is a Vaishnava etiquette. At the same time, even if that does not happen, the senior devotee should not get affected by it. Understood, no? Like that. So that is the institutional level. Now, Srila Prabhupada, although he gave us ISKCON and he gave us this institution, at the same time, he always wanted us that institutionally we should try our best. We should not consider this as Maya. We should not see management as Maya. वी शुड नॉट फील अरे क्या इतना नेगेटिविटी है इंस्टीट्यूशन में, बाप रे अटैच हो जाऊंगा पोस्ट से, पोजीशन से, इतने रिसोर्सेज आएंगे, मनी आएगा, इससे अच्छा तो बाबरे सिंपल लाइफ जिएंगे और भक्ति करेंगे. Prabhupada never wanted this. He wanted that we should use what we have best in Krishna's service. Why? The skills and talents, they come from Krishna. And these skills and talents, if we fully don't engage in Krishna's service, these skills and talents only will take us away from Krishna. So somebody is a good singer, and if he is not singing for Krishna's pleasure, then he'll have a lot of difficulty. So Prabhupada wanted that we should try our best to perform best service for Krishna, manage it in a best way, take care of all aspect by going in details to render a very amazing service for Krishna's pleasure. And this is the difference between ISKCON and other spiritual मठ. अब बाकी मठों में जाएंगे, गंदा पड़ा है, कोई क्लीननेस नहीं है. ISKCON में लोग आते तुरंत, इतना क्लीन टेम्पल है, करेक्ट. ISKCON में देखेंगे पॉलिसीज हैं, चार्ट्स हैं, डायरेक्शंस हैं, सिंबल्स हैं. लेकिन अभी आप गौड़िया मठ में भी जाओ तो कैसा लगता है, पता ही नहीं है कहाँ क्या है, कोई स्टैंडर्ड नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, करेक्ट. वाई? बिकॉज प्रूपद वांटेड दिस. जैसे सिंगिंग है, वो गौड़िया मठ में गाते हैं तो कोई ध्यान रखता है कि पूरा बैलेंस हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है, मृदंगा का, करताल का साउंड. कोई गा रहा है, बीच में घंटा लेकर जाएंगे, ठैन 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 ठैन. देखा है ना आपने गौड़िया मठ में, कई टेम्पल्स में देखा है, वो कुछ रिदम प्रॉपर हो रही है उसके कोई ध्यान ही नहीं देता है. दे आर भावग्राही जनार्दन भगवान. लेकिन इस्कॉन में आप तेज करताल बजाओ, तुरंत कोई टोक देगा, प्रभु थोड़ा धीरे. हाँ, आप ऐसे कीजिए, अभी ठीक, अभी करेक्ट. कभी सिंगर भी बोल देगा रुको रुको रुको. हाँ हाँ हाँ, तो बैलेंस होता है. इस्कॉन में आप देखो, थोड़ा सा भी कोई इधर उधर जा रहा है तो लोग उसको तो करेक्ट कर देंगे. कई बार तो बोलेंगे प्रभु आप हट जाइए, आप बिकॉज इट शुड हेल्प अस टू रेंडर अ ब्यूटीफुल सर्विस टू कृष्णा. वैसे ही ऐसे नहीं है किसी को कुछ बोलना नहीं आता है उसी को भागवतम क्लास में बिठा दिया, ऐसा नहीं. जिनको प्रेजेंट करना भी आता है और जो प्रैक्टिस भी कर रहे हैं, उनको भागवतम क्लास दिया जाता है कि हाँ प्रभु आप प्रेजेंट कीजिए. वरना कोई जिसको बोला नहीं जाता है वो बैठ गया, और फिर जो ऑडियंस है उनको आप ऐसे फ्लॉस्फलाइज करो कि साउंड वाइब्रेशन है भागवतम का, अब क्या स्पीकर है उसको मत देखो, साउंड वाइब्रेशन पे ध्यान दो. ऑडियंस बोलेगा साउंड वाइब्रेशन निकलेगा तब तो इस साउंड वाइब्रेशन ही अलग अलग निकल रहा है. हम कैच नहीं कर पा रहे. तो इंस्टीट्यूशनल लेवल भी बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है. खुद की प्रैक्टिस के लिए भी और नए लोगों को अट्रैक्ट करने के लिए भी. जब इस्कॉन में कीर्तन होता है तो नए लोग कितना अट्रैक्ट हो जाते हैं ना, अरे कितना सुंदर लगा, कितना अच्छा लगा. वैसे जब डीटीज का ड्रेस होता है तो नए लोग कितना अट्रैक्ट हो जाते हैं, राइट. क्या सुंदर डेकोरेशन है, फ्लावर, ड्रेस, बहुत स्पेशल लगता है ऐसा. तो इंस्टीट्यूशनल लेवल पे दैट इज देयर, एंड प्रभुपाद वांटेड that we should do our best at institutional level. At the same time, we should not get affected by the institutional level. We should be able to know and value the substance more. Substance is the bullet, that is the process, that is the second level. And how we see that Prabhupada was emphasizing this. You see, when devotees were doing Harinam, they were caught by the police and they approached Prabhupada. Prabhupada, what should we do? And what was Prabhupada replied? It was not institutional reply. ठीक है, हम कोर्ट में केस फायर करेंगे. No, Prabhupada said, chant inside. You have to just chant, read. And they started doing same thing inside, like that. And then later on, the jailer, he became concerned and he released the devotees. Same way we see in Kolkata when devotees complained about Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Prabhupada, he so much is engaging us. He's very strong and forceful. And Prabhupada asked Tamal Krishna Maharaj, why devotees are complaining about you? Prabhupada, I am doing everything for your pleasure. Prabhupada said, this is my pleasure, devotees are unhappy. Yes. What should I do, Prabhupada? And then Prabhupada corrected Tamal Krishna Maharaj that no, you should take care of devotees. And then Prabhupada turned to devotees. Then Prabhupada said, you don't know how much I sacrificed to start this movement. And I never complained. So then Prabhupada gave a message that you should also never complain. You should also try to sacrifice like that. So all the institutional level is, but then Prabhupada wanted us to go deeper and understand. One time, one devotee was asking Bhakti Virat Bhagavad Swami Maharaj, Maharaj, there is so much politics in the temple. So Maharaj said, do they not allow you to come to Mangalarati? No, no, Maharaj, they allow, they allow. Do they not allow you to chant with devotees here sitting in the temple hall? No, no, Maharaj, they allow. Do they not allow you to hear Shrimad Bhagavatam? No, Maharaj, that they allow. Then you do it and go back to Godhead. He was like that. हाँ ठीक है. और इस्कॉन में क्या है, लोगों को कुछ भी होता है ना, पॉलिटिक्स हो रहा है, पॉलिटिक्स हो रहा है. मुझे पूछो ये पॉलिटिक्स का मतलब क्या होता है? कुछ भी होगा ना. इस्कॉन में एक बहुत कॉमन वर्ड यूज हो गया है आजकल. इंस्टीट्यूशनली क्या है, पर्सन में गेट अफेक्टेड बाय ऑल दिस. And you'll find sometimes devotees, those who get into problems, mostly it is at institutional level. Like Gaurang Prabhu says, if you want to see perfect ISKCON, it is at two places only. What are? Prabhupada purports and holy name. If you want to see perfectness, that यही दो है भैया, और कुछ परफेक्ट नहीं. कहीं पर भी जाइए, किसी भी टेम्पल में जाइए, आप बात कीजिए, वो हर किसी को कोई ना कोई कंसर्न होगा प्रभु मैनेजमेंट में ऐसे ऐसे ऐसे. जब रुक्मिणी कृष्ण प्रभु वाज टेम्पल प्रेसिडेंट, तो डिवोटीज कंप्लेंट अबाउट हिम टू हिज होलीनेस गोपाल कृष्ण गोस्वामी महाराज, दैट महाराज ये अच्छे नहीं हैं, ये हैं वो हैं. तो महाराज सेड दीज आर द बेस्ट अवेलेबल people I have. If you have somebody else, you tell me, we will put him. तो इस इंस्टीट्यूशन में ऐसे ही चलता है, जो बेस्ट अवेलेबल पीपल होते हैं उनमें से जो है उनको सेवा दी जाती है. जरूरी नहीं है कि वो हर एस्पेक्ट में सही हो. बट इफ पर्सन इज नॉट गोइंग टू द डीपर लेवल, देन ही मे गेट अफेक्टेड बाय दिस लाइक दिस. So what is our perfect process? So here he quotes from one letter of Srila Prabhupada. The regulative principles are designed to take us gradually to the platform of spontaneous love of Krishna, which is the perfection of human life. So this is the process which will gradually take us to the platform of spontaneous love of Krishna, which is the perfection of human form of life. Like this. So Prabhupada, for perfect process, he highlighted more on the 5 main potent form of bhakti. And why? Because Prabhupada was knowing somehow in Kali Yuga, it's very difficult for us to take care of all aspects. Because Kali Yuga were somehow not having that goodness and not having that purity, it is very difficult. So Prabhupada, he tried giving the essence so that we are able to take up to the essence and we are able to make progress. So as far as the perfect process is concerned, Prabhupada highlighted these 5 most potent of form of bhakti. साधु संग नाम कीर्तन भागवत श्रवण, मथुरा वास श्री मूर्तिर सिद्धाया सेवन. So Prabhupada highlighted these more, these 5. Why? Because any process of devotion service, if it is not consistent, then it cannot have much impact on us. Unfortunately, you'll find now people become very happy. 40 crore people are coming in Kumbh Mela. Lakhs of people are coming in Jagannath Puri, which is good. And you'll find such occasional practices at many places in India. अभी now रात्रि का fast करेंगे. But what happens? These occasional practices of spiritual life may help us to have some piety, but they'll never help us to have love for the Lord. They cannot awaken love for the Lord. And Prabhupada did not wanted ISKCON followers to be happy with occasional practices of the spiritual life. So that is why, and he was knowing that if I give so many, which are mentioned like 64 limbs of bhakti, and so many others, then it is very difficult. So he organized the morning program in such a way so that the most part of those things which are limbs of bhakti, they are covered, and he focused more on these five. That at least in these five you should be consistent, and they are the essence of all the process. They are the essence of all the practices. And you find the whole ISKCON is centered around having these five very consistently. Because when you have the consistency in these five, then only you can have awakening of love of God. Occasional practices can give you agyasukurti. Occasional practices can give you piety, which we see in India. So many people they go for, but actually very difficult to find rare souls who are very consistent in the process. So he says sadhu sangha, nama kirtana, bhagavad sharana, mathuravas. So you will find about sadhu sangha and mathuravas. Prabhupada said, my ISKCON temples are not different from Vrindavan or Vaikuntha. And you see, ISKCON temples are made for the purpose of giving association to devotees. And you see, sadhu sangha and mathuravas, so much is emphasized by Prabhupada in his purports and so many places. Stay in association, stay in association, stay in association. And the moment devotees stay in association, that is mathuravas. Even those who are grastas, they have this bhakti vriksha. The nearby grastas, they come together in one house and they do Mangal Aarti together. They have some morning program together. Why? Because the Sadhu Sangha Mathuravas is very important. Weekly they go to temple which they are connected to Sunday, and they have satsang in temple. Right? The Nam Kirtan Prabhupada, that is a vow which we take every day, 16 rounds without fail. I will chant as attentively as possible. Bhagavad Sarva Nityam Bhagavata Sevya, daily attendance in the morning Bhagavatam class. Shri Murtara Siddhaya, worshipping the deity of the Lord. For householders, in every house you will find they have deities to worship. In our youth centers, we have a lot to worship. In temples, we have a lot to worship. Is it not? So how much Prabhupada emphasized these five, that having consistency in these five, valuing these five, that is the essence of institution. Why the institution is to bring people to these five, to facilitate people to have these five, to help people to grow in these five. And you find all ISKCON temples, what we do these five. We take association of devotees, we chant the holy names, we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, we stay in association of devotees, and we worship the deities. If there is a temple which is very big, made of marble, jewels, everything is there, but there is no Bhagavatam class, and there is no chanting of the holy names of the Lord, and deities are there, but no worship is going on. Then, although the temple has external form, but substance is missing. The temple will not have any this thing. Rupa says, we see in America so many churches are empty because they don't have anything to offer to people. But our temples are being thriven by devotees. So many people are coming because we give them Nam Kirtan, we give them the beautiful darshan of the Lord, we give them opportunity to hear about Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. So sometimes you find we get more affected by institution to such a level that we forget to see the substance. Substance is this. Now, when it comes to substance, then there is no comparison. From new devotee to GBC, they have to chant. You cannot say, Prabhu, देखो GBC में अभी बन जाऊंगा ना, मेरे को भी एक भी माला जप नहीं करना पड़ेगा. They have to take sadhu sangha. When there is a Bhagavatam class, a young new devotee to GBC, everyone is sitting and hearing. Correct? Because here there is no comparison, no competition like that. But institutionally, there will be comparison. There will be people who are higher placed. There are people who are lower placed, like that. So at a Kanishta level, what happens? A person may get more affected by the institutional aspect and then may not be so much be able to take shelter of the perfect process. But we have to know Prabhupada struggled so hard to give us ISKCON so that we can have these five things. Prabhupada worked so hard to write his books. He worked so hard to create this institutional setup so that we have access to this, like that. And how potent they are, Krishdas Kaviraj Goswami says in the next verse. Sakala sadhana shrestha ei pancha anga. Sakala sadhana shrestha ei pancha anga. Krishna prema janmaya ai panchera alpa sanga. Krishna prema janmaya ai panchera alpa sanga. He's saying these 5 limbs of devotional service are the best of all. Even a slight performance of these 5 awakens love for Krishna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur points out that there are 35 items up to the point of observing special vows in the month of Kartik. To these 35 items, another 4 are added, namely marking tilak on different parts of the body, writing the names of the Lord all over the body, accepting the deity's garland, and accepting Charnamrit. These 4 items are understood to be included by Kaviraj Goswami within Archana, worship of the deity. Although these items are not mentioned here, they are to be added to the previous 35 items. Thus, the total becomes 39. To these 39 should be added 5 others. So, he is talking about all the 64 items which are given by Bhakti Rasamrit Shindu in this. But these 5 especially, they are very potent. And Srila Prabhupada centered around these 5, that how one should have access to these 5. So the real substance of this movement is the spiritual process, the wonderful and the simple formula of hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. This process is purely transcendental, and no matter what happens, the chanting of Hare Krishna remains equally powerful. It is not tainted by history or withered by time. It is eternal and completely pure. See, institution may go through ups and downs, and institution may have human failures, mistakes. Institution may have imperfections, but as far as the perfect process is concerned, it is transcendental, it is eternal, it is always pure, and it is accessible to any sincere soul regardless of time, place, or circumstances. It is this process that gives life to the individuals and to the society, and it is this process which should remain the central focus of our life. So that is why we have to keep this process as center of our life. And if we don't understand the substance, then externally we get more affected by the institutional aspect, and then it becomes difficult for us. So those who are Madhyam Adhikari, it is mentioned that they may not have very strong understanding of the scriptures, that they can have argument, but they have firm faith, and he is known as a second class devotee. So Madhyam Adhikari is absorbed in the substance of the perfect process of devotion service. This is Madhyam Adhikari. See, there are scriptural definition of Kanishta and Madhyama which we hear in Bhagavatam. But Maharaj very beautifully has translated those scriptural definition of Kanishta and Madhyama at our level to understand. So Kanishta, they are deeply absorbed in institutional level. Madhyam Adhikari, they are deeply absorbed in the substance, that is the process of devotional service. So if two Madhyam Adhikaris are meeting, they will talk about chanting, reading, hearing. So Kanishtas are talking, they will talk about all issues and things which are happening around. Okay. So how to come from Kanishta to Madhyama when our focus changes from institutional level to the process level. Like that. And you will find there are no problems at this. You will never find in any meeting people complaining, मैं चैंटिंग करता हूँ लेकिन चैंटिंग और अच्छा करना चाहता हूँ, और इस डिवोटी के कारण जो है मैं अच्छा चैंटिंग नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ. ऐसा होगा कभी? या इस टेम्पल के कारण मैं चैंटिंग नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ, या इस मैनेजमेंट के कारण मैं चैंटिंग नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ. कभी भी किसी मीटिंग में कोई परफेक्ट प्रोसेस के बारे में कंप्लेन किया? नहीं. सारे कंप्लेंट्स कहाँ आते हैं? तो ये किचन इंचार्ज कैसा है, इसको मैंने बोला पोहा बनाना है, चटनी बनाया, पोहा नहीं बनाया. कंप्लेंट्स यही होते हैं ना, प्रसाद का क्वांटिटी ऐसा हो गया, इसका क्वांटिटी ऐसा हो गया, इंटरनल मैनेजर कैसा है, सारी सेवाएं प्रभु जी चुन चुन के मुझे ही ढूंढता है। पीछे से आएगा, बोलेगा प्रभु जी ऑफरिंग कर दो, प्रभु जी ये कर दो, प्रभु जी वो कर दो। ऐसा लगता है गला ही दबा दूं इसका। करेक्ट। और कोई मिलता ही नहीं है प्रभु जी, मैं ही मिलता हूँ इसको। प्रभु जी इसका कुछ तो दुश्मनी है मुझसे, उसको निकाल रहा है। यही कंप्लेन्स आते हैं, करेक्ट। और वो आएगा या किसी को अप्रिशिएट करो, प्रभु देखो कितना अच्छा प्रचार करते हैं, 10 लोग आ रहे हैं इनके, तो बाकियों के हृदय में गुड़गुड़ होने लग जाएगा, राइट। 10 आ रहे हैं, हमको पता है क्या प्रचार करता है, प्रभु जी को तो अंदर की बात पता नहीं है। ऐसा है। 5 बच्चे तो मेरे ही थे, मैं ही दे दिया था। So madhyam adhikari means one who is absorbed in the perfect process. Any temple who have devotees at this level will not have any fights. महाराज एक अच्छे लेक्चर में बता रहे थे, नियोफाइट्स दे फाइट। नियोफाइट रहेंगे तो क्या होगा, फाइट होगा। मध्यम अधिकारी है तो फाइट नहीं होगा। दे विल बी कंसर्न अबाउट इंस्टीट्यूशन, ऐसा नहीं है दे विल नॉट बी कंसर्न अबाउट इंस्टीट्यूशन, दे विल आल्सो बी कंसर्न कि कैसे प्रीचिंग बढ़े, रिसोर्सेज जो है भक्तों को मिले, सेवा अच्छा हो। बट they will not get so much affected by the institution that they compromise on the perfect process. And one of the aspect of perfect process is following our superiors. I suppose अगर superiors बोलते हैं कि प्रभु आप जो है ये रिसोर्स को छोड़ दीजिए, और अगर वो इतना आसक्त हैं कि वो रिसोर्स को नहीं छोड़ पा रहे हैं, तो उन्होंने कहाँ कॉम्प्रोमाइज कर लिया, परफेक्ट प्रोसेस में। क्योंकि परफेक्ट प्रोसेस के लिए मर्सी चाहिए, इंस्टीट्यूशन के लिए मर्सी नहीं चाहिए। आपको मर्सी नहीं है तब भी परफॉर्म कर सकते हो अगर आपका स्किल सेट है, करेक्ट ना। लेकिन ये आप कर सकते हो, अपने उससे नहीं कर सकते हो, इसके लिए कृपा चाहिए। तो ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि हम बहुत ज़्यादा अफेक्ट हो जाएं कि परफेक्ट प्रोसेस को कॉम्प्रोमाइज करें। तो इफ़ यू हैव सम कंसर्न्स रिलेटेड टू इंस्टीट्यूशन, गो टू सुपीरियर एंड लेट देम गाइड, लेट देम टेल अस लाइक दैट। But unfortunately, sometimes we see people get so affected by institution that they have difficulty to follow the superiors also. And then naturally, they'll have difficulty to be absorbed in the substance that is the perfect process of devotional service. Externally, they may be seem to be a devotee, but internally, they will not be able to grow as a devotee. Okay, so we'll continue this from here, perfect process, tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.